On Tech News Today, Turkey blocks Twitter, but the block fails. Microsoft reads a blogger's Hotmail email to catch a leaker. And we take a look at how wireless carriers buy influence in Washington. All that and more coming up next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, March 21st, 2014. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used Apple and Android devices are worth at Gazelle.com. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Mike Elgin.
I'm Jason Howell.
Tech News Today explores the big stories of the day in conversation with some of the world's best journalists. Our guest co-anchor today is Andy Ihnatko, a technology columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times and Macworld, as well as a tech author, blogger, podcaster, squirrel photographer, and, best of all, host of Twit's own Mac Break Weekly. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Nice to have me on.
Well, let's get right into the news, but first, let's not get right into the news. Let's talk about Twitter. Twitter is 8 years old today. And Jason, if you can roll that video that Mashable put together, they have this sort of history of Twitter. And let's take a look back at the wonderful origins of Twitter. No, I don't think that's it.
No.
It started
wow,
with
they
Grandma.
got really dark right there. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, let's hear it.
In late February 2006, Jack Dorsey, Evan Williams, Biz Stone, and Noah Glass first discussed the idea of using text messages to share statuses.
How much coffee do you have to drink to
idea,
draw that
then
fast?
called Status, is attributed to Dorsey.
He's the same guy who did
March
the titles
of
for
the
Wes
same
Anderson
year,
movie.
The name Twitter was chosen for the service.
That
The name is
an
attributed
odd
to Glass.
choice for a
On
drawing.
March 21st, Jack Dorsey sent the first tweet. In March 2007, Twitter got a bump from South by Southwest Interactive.
Big bump.
I'm just glad
rose
we get to take a look at the process.
Yes. Well,
In
I
2007,
think we've had enough of that. And the rest was history, et cetera. Yeah, Twitter's been quite a phenomenon. It's turned out to be within journalism circles, Andy, and I know that you're very active on Twitter. I really enjoy your Twitter feed. It's, you know, for journalists, and especially tech journalists, it's really indispensable as a communications medium, partly because it has, among other features, a kind of megaphone quality. It's a great place for you to usher forth your clever thoughts. And it's not so much about conversation. It's, to me, more about sort of like, here's what I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, but also there's so many times that little stories and little bits of information come across our desks that don't merit like a whole 500-word or 2,000-word article to post. All you have is, hey, I just heard this. I'm still looking at it, but you might want to look at this too. It's an easy way to pass along that kind of information in the right context of, hey, look, this does not have the full stamp and authority of the Chicago Sun-Times behind it. I did not research this. This is just something that I'm looking at right now, and I'll have some more to say about it in 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah. And yeah, it's so many of these little things over the course of the day that that don't require full immersion, but you just want to get the information out anyway.
Yeah, and it's great for that. And it's you know, it's the fact that the messages are so tiny, I think, is obviously the secret sauce. You know, you could imagine something like this on Google Plus, for example. It's like eating Thanksgiving dinner every single day. It's just so much information when you don't force the users to condense it. Anyways.
I'm the king of these 2,000-word, 5,000-word reviews, and even I love the challenge of, I've got an idea that I want to convey. Oh, that's 160 characters. What words do I not need? Hey, look, I didn't need 20% of that. It's a really nice challenge. I love it.
Yeah, although your tweets tend to be very, very nicely written. You don't do that often. You usually have complete sentences and punctuation and everything. It's really astonishing.
It's like it is like Tetris. It's like you want to put the 5 block into that one square, and boom, that's what you feel like when you say, I just did something really nice in a tiny little fortune cookie wrapper. I am #1 best writer.
That's right, exactly. Well, speaking of Twitter, let's get right into the news and talk about Twitter in the news abroad. The Turkish government blocked Twitter yesterday after Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan threatened to wipe out the microblogging service as well as other social media. He's trying to contain a corruption scandal a few days before an election there. Quite a story there, and it's funny because the block actually increased Twitter tweets out of Turkey by 138%. So it's not really working. People are finding all kinds of ways around it. Even Turkey's President Abdullah Gül criticized the blockade with a tweet. He said, quote, "The wholesale shuttering of social media platforms cannot be approved," unquote. So the government itself is divided. People are blocking it through a variety of means. But what do you think, Andy? Is this a huge blunder for any sort of wannabe kind of like controlling, not a dictator, but in a democracy, to try to control something like this? It just seems to backfire every time.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to control a 21st century population with tactics that you got out of a 1930s newsreel. You can't shut down the printing presses. You can't arrest the editor-in-chief of the largest paper because it's way too decentralized. But the other thing, and I know how cynical this is sounding, but as this story was unfolding yesterday, all I could think of is this is not the pro move for this guy to do. The pro move to do is to say, look at this thing and think, wow, here is a mechanism via which truths, half-truths, rumors, and gossip will move by the velocity of a speeding virus. What an interesting thing for a dictatorship-minded leader to use, to exploit, to actually put out information that helps me instead of my enemies. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more. Just it made me remember how the United States government was able to put a little bit of control, at least, on cable news press during the first Gulf War by saying, we know how your business operates. We know that you get viewership by getting really good video. We will help you get really good video by helping you ride along with us as we do forward operations, except we do have to have you sign this thing to agree that we're going to let you, we're going to be able to turn off your cameras when it's inconvenient for us to do so. So we're going to see more governments learn from this mistake and say, no, we're going to have to exploit this. Let's not turn this off.
I think that's exactly right. And the astonishing point is that the government, you know, the president and the prime minister and the people who are around the prime minister have much larger Twitter followings than the smaller sort of scrappy human rights and pro-democracy critics of the government. And that's going to change through this crisis. The crisis is actually going to drive a lot of people to follow the opposition, and it's just a completely bizarre blunder. Now, one of the coolest and I think most interesting little details in this story is the fact that one of the ways that they're getting around it is that there's a viral campaign of actual physical graffiti, people with spray paint cans writing on walls around Istanbul and around the country, saying that, and the graffiti says Google DNS 8.8.8.8. And that is Google's public DNS service. It's a reference to Google's public DNS service, where by using that service and then going to Twitter, you are getting around the censorship. There's a bunch of other ways that people are getting around the censorship. They're using VPNs. They are going to other social media. Only Twitter's blocked. Facebook isn't. And so, you know, this is why the tweets out of the country have gone way up. It's just a blunder, and it's just coming back at them in every possible way. And by the way, just on the political angle, what they're trying to suppress is primarily information about and conversation about some recordings that that Erdogan says are false, that are you know, sort of made up. But the recordings of him allegedly telling his son to go make bribes and payoffs. And so there's an election in 10 days. And so he's trying to prevent people from talking about these recordings. It's a ridiculous and ham-fisted move to try to control a conversation. All he's doing is he's just handing it to his opponents, and let this be a lesson to everyone. So, really interesting story. And in a sec, we're gonna talk about some more ham-fisted efforts here in the United States. But first, I want to tell you about Gazelle. Gazelle is a fantastic service that will buy your used gadgets. Now, why would you want to sell your used gadgets to Gazelle? A bunch of reasons. First of all, they'll give you lots of money for them, and you can use that money to buy your next gadget. We always talk about the latest and greatest gadgets. If you got old gadgets sitting around, whether it's the one you're using now or the one you stopped using and have now put in a box or drawer or in the garage, or it's just sitting around, that is not only not making you any money, it's also losing value. So the amount of money it can return to you, is going down with every passing week. So here's what you have to do. Go to Gazelle.com. That's Gazelle.com. You find the item that you've got sitting around. They'll have it in there. You tell them the condition, and then they'll tell you how much money you'll make on it. And then they'll send you a free box. You put it in the box. The shipping label's in there. You just slap it on the box, put it back in the mailbox, and you get a check. You either get a check or you'll get PayPal payment, or the best option, in my opinion, is if you go with an Amazon gift card, they will give you 5% more for your device. Now, the price is locked in for 30 days. So even if the actual value of the device that you're going to sell goes down during that 30-day period, they will still honor the amount that they showed you. So it's a really fantastic service. They'll even wipe your data for free if you're not sure whether you've got some private information on the device that you send back. Gazelle has paid more than $100 million to over 700,000 customers. So go to Gazelle.com today and find out what your Apple or Android device is worth. Take a minute, go to Gazelle.com and find out. Do it now because your device may lose value the longer you wait. Well, after admitting to snooping on a blogger's email, Microsoft announced today a change in its privacy policy. The company had taken advantage of its ownership and control of Hotmail to read a blogger's email message to find out who leaked Microsoft secrets to said blogger, allegedly. The incident raises the question of just how common it is for cloud companies to violate the privacy of customers in pursuit of their own internal objectives. This is a pretty outrageous thing. I mean, you're a writer and a blogger. This is going to really make journalists think twice about where they put their communication eggs. And, I think it's actually pretty outrageous. And one of the most outrageous things about it is that it's not a violation of the law, and it's not a violation of their own previous privacy policies. This is what companies like Microsoft that have services like Hotmail give themselves the right to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really is a classic case of overreach where as you get more desperate to find a solution to a problem, you start to look at, well, let's empty out the entire tool chest and see what's available at our disposal. And when Microsoft, who is frustrated legitimately to have sneaks from Windows 8 posted and people listening to do all kinds of really nasty things with the source code, they get a little bit desperate. And that's when they say, well, technically, we do have the ability to look in any content that's been hosted through our servers or through our mail servers. And this really does point to, however, this is one of the changes that journalism is going through. If there's an item number 103 of a 300-item list, that as a journalist now, you really are responsible for the security of not only your communications, but your communications of your source as well. I'm not sure if I would be even 1% comfortable writing about a sensitive issue regarding Microsoft if I knew that I was using Microsoft's mail servers for my day-to-day communications. This is why I think that almost every journalist that is half aware of this is going to be running their own mail server so that they have some control over what that pipeline is like. Not only that, but also have the ability to how do I encrypt my communications, and how do I even take things offline completely? There have been times, I'm sure you've had these situations too, where you are swapping IMs and emails with somebody, and there's a point at which you say, okay, stop. Let's go over to the phone right now, because that's really the only way to make sure there's not going to be a trail. There's almost certainly not going to be someone sneaking in. Of course, that might have changed the past 3 years, but there's a time when you really have to trust only the telephone and your handwritten notes to your data. Yeah,
that's when you make the decision. Let's move this conversation from Microsoft's servers to the NSA's servers.
Well, that just start off completely. Again, if you're a journalist writing about technology in any way, shape, or form, and you're using Gmail, oh, wow, we need to talk. Or you need to go back to whoever gave your journalism degree and get a partial refund because they didn't teach you right. That's just obvious.
And if you do the right thing and you use good encryption and you use some of the tools that are available to have private communications, then you may become sort of a suspect, if you will, by the NSA, or at least in the past you could have. Who knows what they'll be able to do in the future, or what they will do in the future. Now, this is especially interesting in light of the fact that Microsoft's Scroogled campaign hammered Google in a series of ads over stuff like this, over their violation of customer emails. And they were talking specifically in one case about Gmail scanning email messages so that they could serve up contextual ads. That is way more innocuous, as far as I'm concerned, than what Microsoft did, which was human beings actually went and read through a journalist's, or a blogger's, if you will, personal email to find a rat that they could then track down. That's completely different from what Google does, which is that humans aren't going through your Gmail and then determining what ads to do. That's just all algorithmically based, and it's deployed at massive scale. Nobody is sitting there in Mountain View reading Gmail to serve up these ads. Now, that's not to say that Google doesn't do this. We don't know the extent to which companies like Microsoft and Google and others are do this as a matter of course. They almost all of them give themselves permission to do exactly this, and nobody knows exactly what they're doing.
Well, I did take the time to reread Google's terms of service, their privacy policies this morning, and looking for language that was like what was outlined in Microsoft's terms of service. Microsoft's terms of service says specifically that we have the ability to look through your mail to protect our own private interests, which is sort of a glaring thing. I didn't see anything like that in Gmail's terms of service. But the big violation that I can see is that there is part of the transaction that Google makes openly with users of Gmail. They say that we will give you this amazingly awesome and really, really easy to use and reliable mail service. What you give us in return is the permission to look at your mail and have code look at your mail and look for relevant opportunities to put ads next to it. You have the you have the opportunity then to say that no, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in that. No, that creeps me out. Or to say that yeah, I don't want to spend $10, $20 a month for email service and won't be as good as Gmail. So yes, that's okay by me. At no point did anybody who signed up for Microsoft Mail Services think that I'm part of the deal is I get to give Microsoft information from my personal communications that will help them in their business. That wasn't part of the deal. And so everyone who feels cheated like that has a very good right to be so.
Absolutely. And, I'd like to call out Microsoft. They changed their privacy policy and now say that they will only hack the email of employees at Microsoft, and they made some other modifications to their privacy policy.
At least they got dental out of it.
That's exactly. The rest of us don't get that, so what are they complaining about? But I would like to call out Microsoft and demand that they apologize. They have not apologized for doing this. It's not only that they did this to a specific blogger, but that they were willing to do this presumably to any of their users. So they need to apologize. And also what needs to happen here is that other companies like Google and anybody else who has cloud services, especially communication services, needs to come out and admit and tell us exactly what they have done over the last few years in terms of actually reading people's emails, because we need disclosure on these. These are the very companies that are going to Washington outraged that the NSA is doing mass surveillance in the hunt for terrorism. So, the NSA's job is to, among other things, is to prevent terrorist attacks, apparently. And, in this case, Microsoft's doing its job to a certain extent by trying to prevent leaks and, and ultimately that theoretically benefits users in some way. Everybody thinks that it's okay to violate the privacy of people for their own objectives. But all of these groups, the private companies that maintain the cloud services, the government that does counterterrorism surveillance, they need to understand that there are limits. You can't just go through and harvest people's personal information just because you're trying to do whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. So I would like to call out these companies to admit what they've done and to have full disclosure about all this, because right now we simply don't know. All we know is that they're capable of doing it, and this Microsoft case has really brought that out into the surface. Well, a new piece at Slate.com by investigative journalist Alan Holmes said that the future of wireless communication may be decided by lobbyists, think tanks, and academics who are paid for their opinions. Joining us is Alan Holmes, who's a writer-analyst for the Center for Public Integrity. Did I get your title right there, Alan?
That's correct. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today. Now, who are the biggest lobbyists influencing U.S. policy on wireless?
Well, it's right now AT&T and Verizon have always been right up there among the biggest. They are perennially in the top 10 or 20 lobbyists. They hire some of the most powerful law firms on K Street here in Washington to go to the FCC or to visit members of Congress. So it's AT&T and Verizon. And then second, far behind, actually, is T-Mobile and Sprint. And this is just in the telecommunications area that we're talking about. Of course, there's lobbyists in the healthcare, pharmaceuticals, but AT&T and Verizon are right up there with the biggest ones. Now,
this is really the core issue, isn't it? It's the big companies versus the little ones, and the ability for the largest companies like AT&T. I believe AT&T, I read somewhere recently that over the last 10 years, they're not only the biggest lobbyist company in the industry, they are the single biggest contributor to campaigns and to government of any company or any organization. Is that correct, or did I misread that?
They're right up there. They give millions and millions to campaigns. It's just, I think you can count probably the people on. It's easier to count the people that haven't gotten money from AT&T rather than the ones that have. They spread their largesse far and wide, both Republicans and Democrats. They're also very, very active in the state legislatures where they create really strong relationships. They employ people all in every single state. So they're kind of like the defense industrial complex. And so they can go to the state legislatures and say, look, we employ this number of people in your district or in your state. And they get a very welcome ear, both in state and the federal. But yeah, you're right. They're among the top in contributing to campaigns through their PACs.
Now, it's easy to understand a wide variety of interests that these companies are lobbying for. They want things to go their way. They want the FCC to get off their backs on various issues. But there's a big spectrum auction coming up next year, and that's a key thing that everybody's lobbying for, isn't it? Can you tell us about this spectrum auction and what's at stake?
Sure. This is right now dominating the FCC. There's a law professor out of the University of Pennsylvania, Christopher Yu, who follows communications law. Just as 3 days ago, he was on a panel and he called it the giant sucking sound coming out of the FCC is the spectrum incentive auction. And basically what it is that it's they're going to ask television broadcasters in the 600 megahertz band, which is very valuable frequency. It goes very long distance. It goes through buildings very easily. The kind of spectrum you need when you go down into the basement of a building and you're on a call or in an elevator and it doesn't drop. That's really good spectrum to have. And it's going to be auctioned off probably next year, probably around the summer. They're coming out with the rules for that auction in May. And what they want to do is they pay the television broadcasters to give up the spectrum. And then they're going to put it on auction. And most likely the wireless companies, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, are going to be the big bidders on this spectrum, as well as the smaller carriers, U.S. Cellular, C Spire, and others that want this spectrum. And it's the last of its kind. They already auctioned off the 700 megahertz band back in 2008. Remember when we went to digital TV? So there's not going to be much more of this left. And it's what you really need to build a nationwide network. AT&T and Verizon have a lot of this spectrum that's basically is called sub 1 gigahertz spectrum. It's in the 700 and 800 megahertz band. But T-Mobile and Sprint don't have very much of it. So if they're going to compete with AT&T and Verizon, they need this. So the fight is over. AT&T and Verizon want to buy this up. T-Mobile and Sprint want AT&T and Verizon to have limits put on them by the FCC so that they can get more and so they can compete. And so that's what the fight's all about.
And it's fascinating because the airways belong to the public, belong to the people, and yet here it is, all this money is being spent to influence the government to sell it to these companies in various ways. Now, when everybody knows lobbying exists and these big companies have lobbyists, everybody, I think, imagines that a lobbying organization sets up an office on K Street, hires some lobbyists, they take congressmen to lunch, do things like that, try to influence them by convincing them. But the extent of lobbying is much vaster than that, isn't it? You wrote about the giving of cash to think tanks and associations, the paying of academics for various things. Now, these academics will go on network TV news and give opinions as academics or as members of think tanks, but in fact, they're paid shills essentially for these companies. Can you give us some sense of the range of lobbying efforts that take place by the AT&Ts of the world?
Right. You said it exactly right. What's happened is traditionally lobbyists, they would, file with Congress saying that they're lobbying, and you track the spending. It's very open. It's very easy to track. But really what's happening is that it's gone kind of underground now. And it's probably, in some estimates, the experts who follow this, it's about 3 times the amount that we can actually track. And it's hiring of public relations firms. It's paying association dues. It's paying think tanks that don't necessarily say that they're being funded by these companies. And then what they do is they go out and do create very academic-looking research papers. They file them with the FCC. Congress picks them up and mentions them in on the House floor, or the Senate floor, or in letters to the FCC. So it's this kind of perpetual loop that has been created, and you don't know who's behind what. And it basically is creating an atmosphere where everybody has to jump in and do this. Everybody has to get their academic or their think tank to do the type of work that they need to support their position. But it's also on what typically might look like a really innocuous nonprofit. You have like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, filing at the FCC supporting that there should be no spectrum limits, but then you find out that they get money from AT&T. So it's much darker, it's much harder to follow, and it just creates this whirlwind here in Washington about who's supporting what and what is objective research and what's not.
But is it really dark? I mean, these companies, the AT&Ts of the world and Verizons and so on, they are really expert in the delivering of services to customers, and they're trying to serve their customers. That's ultimately what they're trying to do because that's their business. Isn't it okay that they are the most influential voice in Washington? I mean, after all, they're both experts and they're also trying to serve customers.
That would be true, yes, if you create an atmosphere of competition. Right now, they have about 2/3 of all the wireless subscribers together. T-Mobile and Sprint have about 30% of the remaining. If you create a situation where they can continue to get most of the subscribers, and right now their networks are better than T-Mobile and Sprint, as most analysts say. But what the Justice Department has filed last year and why they shot down the purchase of AT&T's purchase of T-Mobile back in 2011 was because they're trying to keep a market that's at least close to competition. There's a with four carriers. At one point, the Justice Department said years and years ago that it should be 6, 7, or 8. We're really down to 4. And what happens is the argument is that when you don't have competition, you get complacent, innovation goes away, prices go up, and that's what basically the argument of the Obama administration is, that we got to keep competition. And most economists, I think, would agree, although there's there are some economists who are saying that otherwise. But right now, there is competition. You can see what T-Mobile's been doing with their, their plans to make it cheaper for customers. If T-Mobile doesn't get this spectrum, and they see it as a kind of basically a make it or break it auction for them. Yep. If they don't get it, they go away, and so does that competition.
Very interesting. Well, I want to thank you, Alan, for joining us today. It's been very enlightening, and I think I'd like to urge everyone to go read your piece on Slate.com. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
You can find Alan's work on publicintegrity.org, and you can find him on Twitter at ATHolmes. The newest revelation from the Edward Snowden trove of documents reported on The Intercept says that the NSA targeted private email, Facebook account information, and other personal data about system administrators, sysadmins are the new target, around the world to make it easier for them to break into the networks that these sysadmins control. Now, Andy, this is a really interesting thing. It looks like there was some effort inside the NSA to build this sort of database of private information by everyday workaday sysadmins all over the world. They, in fact, at one point in the documents, they said, we want a comprehensive list of every sysadmin outside the United States who's managing any sort of phone system or network. We want to be able to go in there and, quote, pwn them and basically be able to have an advantage if we need to hack things at the last minute.
Yeah, and that's it's yet another scary turn in a very dark ride already. what the NSA has always been saying, and what the government that holds the keys to the NSA has always been saying, is that we're not surveilling on ordinary citizens. These are all directly connected to the national security interests, and we're not taking care of domestic people. The big deal here is that now they're saying that here is a system administrator who has no ties to anything going on whatsoever. The reason why that all of his or her private and personal communications are being compromised is because somewhere within that personal email file, there might be information that could be used to get access to the network that he controls or she controls that might then be used by someone that they say is actually interested in. And one of the most alarming things about these documents is when you look at the language that's being used, there really isn't any sense of restraint in the language here. It really is about, hey, this is great. It used to be that we had no idea how much Honey Nut Cheerios that a system administrator had in his home kitchen. Now we can find that out. Isn't that wonderful? Because we always want to have more and more information, not less information. And so even if you're not a system administrator yourself, it really does put some extra color on the severity of this problem. I think this is naturally what happens when you give somebody what is definitely an important mandate, which is to maintain national security. And then you say, here are the rules that we are going to impose on you for that important mandate. There are practically no rules. That's when you basically create a situation in which we are going to try to do whatever we possibly can. And if Congress tells us we can't do that, then we will stop doing that. But until someone puts the brakes on us, we have a mandate, and we're going to pursue and prosecute that mandate to limits that people would think would be absurd outside of the National Security Agency.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that they are not suspected of any crimes. The NSA documents themselves say explicitly that these people are not suspected in any way of any crimes. Yeah. And the other thing is, you talk about their lack of restraint. You read the language that they're using. It sounds like script kiddies bragging on some kind of hacker chat room or something like that. It doesn't sound like a responsible intelligence agency trying to save the world. It sounds like people getting really excited about breaking in to the personal information of innocent people, and being hackers and being malicious hackers, not the good kind of hackers. Just some of the language. For example, they say that this system allows them to dumpster dive for alternative sectors in the big Signet trash can. That's their signal intelligence, where they harvest all this information that we've been talking about, and this enables them to do that. Or they say you can pull out your wicked Google foo. And they go on talking about how one of the documents is called "I Hunt Sysadmins." That's the name of the document. So this is, as you said, this is a dark chapter, and we have a related story coming up that hopefully this kind of thing will come up in that meeting, which is in the next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I just want to add one more thing. I talked to. It really also put something else into sharp focus for me. When I talk to police, like actual licensed law enforcement, who are in exactly this sort of job, which is that here's a bad guy who has data that we need for our mandate of protecting the public safety. How do we get into this thing? Every time I talk to one of these guys or one of these women who were trained as police officers first and then added that security training on top of that, they always start with their understanding of what their public mandate is. I've yet to talk to one of them, even casually, who feels as though breaking into somebody's computer or accessing someone's email or accessing someone's phone data is a trivial thing that doesn't put damage upon the trust between their agency and the public they're sworn to protect. I think that it's a greater concern when you start off with hiring somebody who's just really good at compromising security and getting information, and you simply say, congratulations, you are now under the umbrella of the government. You have to start with the training that says that you are an officer of the law. You are here to serve the people and protect the people. They are not sheep that you're there to sort of scout out and get the fattest one and brag about how many you got today versus how many you used to be able to get last week.
That's exactly right. And the tragic thing here is that the NSA is kind of blaming Edward Snowden for bringing this to light. And, this was going to come to light. This is such a gigantic thing. And in fact, it's astonishing that these facts didn't become revealed years ago. And it's always inevitable that this was going to come to light. And the big picture view of all these revelations is that the NSA was proceeding as if it would never come into the public view. They'd be able to do this forever to everyone. And it's just really outrageous, and they've really shattered the trust of the American people, and they've done more damage as well. And I want to get into that story right now. President Obama has once again summoned top executives to the White House. The focus of the meeting today, once again, is issues of privacy, technology, and intelligence. In other words, the NSA's exploitation of Silicon Valley to engage in mass surveillance. The invitation list hasn't been announced, but reports say that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg will be there. Zuck recently called Obama to complain about a revelation that the NSA was spreading malware with fake Facebook servers. And Google Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt is expected to be there too. Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer reportedly declined, saying the invitation didn't give her enough notice. Now, this is really interesting in light of a new report in the New York Times that tries to get a handle on how much damage the NSA's activities in mass surveillance have affected Silicon Valley companies. And this story by Claire Kane Miller just came out about an hour ago. It says that the snooping is costing tech companies a lot. Microsoft has lost customers, including the government of Brazil, according to the story. IBM is spending more than $1 billion to build data centers overseas that it wasn't planning to build, so that its foreign customers can be assured that it'll be away from the prying eyes of the NSA. That's a completely false thing, by the way. The NSA's specialty is hacking foreigners, not Americans. That's the spying on Americans is kind of new to the NSA. And tech companies abroad are actually, shunning U.S. cloud providers. It's looking like it could be very damaging. I think this is, just as you were saying, Andy, this is an example of a very irresponsible ongoing program by the government, not even thinking for a second about the sense of trust in the government by the public, but also the damage it does. I mean, and I'm sorry for pontificating here, but it seems to me that the thing that makes us strongest from a national security point of view is wealth, is being a rich country and staying that way. And here they are damaging the most vital sector of our economy, Silicon Valley, with these by exploiting cloud providers for their own ends.
Yeah, you'd hate to say something like this, but it might actually be true that if the biggest restraint that the government has is angering companies like Google, like Apple, that have billions and billions of dollars to spend on lobbying, and we've just had a look at what lobbyists can do that is against the public interest. But Google does not want their services devalued. Microsoft does not want to see their services devalued. IBM, Apple, if they simply got together and say, we are now going to form an action committee that will simply make sure that we will have lawmakers in there who support the idea of privacy is privacy, security is security, and personal integrity is going to have to matter in the future. That's how we're going to get long-lasting change. I will say one thing, though, because Mike, you and I are on exactly the same page, but a footnote to this discussion is the problems that Snowden's leaks have actually created. They've released all this information without context. So foreign governments and our own citizens are left to wonder exactly how these ideas are actually being implemented. For all we know, if we were to actually be able to get to the absolute truth of what the NSA is up to, we would look at what they're doing and agree that, okay, this is their capability, and yes, they're being really glib in how they describe it in internal documents, but they are actually very concerned about compromising individual security and liberty. They are not interested in personal emails. They're actually doing things that I would definitely approve of. But because we are looking at this raw data, we don't know what to think. So we have no idea how much of this is actionable, how much of this is has integrity about it, and how much of this is only half of what we should be worried about. So if there's anything that I could ever say negative about the Snowden leaks, it's that to an extent, it really is kicking over an anthill of people who are already very easily agitated.
That's right. And people remember the crazy things that are revealed almost every day. And this is, again, a lot of bragging. Many of these documents are PowerPoint presentations where somebody in some room somewhere was hired to be some security specialist about how you can steal information. And they were going on, yeah, we could do this, we can do that, we should do this, we should do that, we have these capabilities. And you don't know the extent to which they've done it. The other bad part of this is that a certain level of, I don't want to say incompetence, but inability to, for example, around the metadata, this is a huge amount of data that is just got to be overwhelming to the NSA. They're probably not capable of doing a fraction of the things that many of us are afraid that they're doing routinely. And so it's the worst possible outcome. On the one hand, everybody thinks they're spying on everybody. They may or may not be doing that. And on the other, they're probably not capable of doing all the things that the revelations imply that they're doing. So it's really a bad state of affairs. And yeah, it's context free. But, you know, the solution, I think, is for us to keep reporting on it, for us to keep talking about it, and to tease through this. And that's why I really like this website, The Intercept, which has been built expressly to uncover these revelations and explore them and get them out there so that we can talk about them and try to understand them. I think it'll be clear enough in 5 years or something like that. But right now, it's just a painful process of daily revelations. And here's here's another horrible thing, you know, that may or may not be happening. So it's an interesting story.
As long as our leaders start to feel heat about this, that's when the light shines in.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Well, in a sec, we're going to tell you how Mt. Gox is back in the news. But first, I want to tell you about Squarespace. You want to build a great website? The easiest and best way to do it is on squarespace.com. They have 25 beautiful templates for you to start with. And then once you've picked the template, you can modify it to create a completely unique site that still has those design elements that were built in the first place. If you're looking at the video, you see how beautiful this is. And if you've seen beautiful websites online, many of those have been built by people who really are not coders or designers, but simply customers of Squarespace. And you should be one of them if you want to build a website. They also have a logo creator tool, which is super impressive. Go to blog.squarespace.com to see a video about this. But if you have a small business and you want a logo, I've tried to build logos with designers. It's a painful, expensive, time-consuming process, and it never left me super satisfied. You can build your own logo using the incredible tools in the logo creator tool, and once you've got it, you can trademark it and use it for your business. And if you're selling things on your website, of course, Squarespace supports e-commerce on all subscription plan levels. This helps you sell things, of course. You can have a shopping cart type of situation where you're selling your goods and services. And it's also great for nonprofits, cash wedding registries, and school fund drives. So if you just want to raise money for any reason, this is the way to do it. You can also do a kind of tip jar thing if you want to monetize your blog without advertising. It's mobile ready. The Squarespace Metric app for iPhone and iPad lets you check your site stats, which is fantastic. And the blog app helps you maintain your blog and including moderating your comments even as you're wandering around town with your mobile device. So it's really, really a great site. Start a free 2-week trial with no credit card required and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT, and that'll get you 10% off the price and also show your support for Tech News Today. And we thank Squarespace for their support of this show. And remember that better web awaits, and it starts with your Squarespace website. Well, it sounds like a story from The Onion, but no, it's real. Mt. Gox claims that it found 200,000 bitcoins worth around $116 million in an old virtual wallet thought to be empty. The revelation happened after some noticed the bitcoins moving through the cryptocurrency exchange, and we reported in previous episodes about the ongoing saga of Mt. Gox Bitcoin, the leading Bitcoin exchange that collapsed after the company claimed that all the bitcoins had been stolen by hackers. It's since filed for bankruptcy. Our advice: keep checking those old wallets. Maybe the rest will turn up also. And try looking under the virtual cushions of the virtual sofa. Maybe there's some bitcoins in there as well. This is pretty crazy. What do you think? Does this kind of erode what should be already a low sense of the honesty of the Mt. Gox people?
Man, there's the classic response to revelations like this throughout history, and that is when we talk to a CEO or a government official or someone who got caught, and you ask them, were you really that stupid or were you really that devious? Because either if someone came into my casino and got 8 jackpots in a row off the slot machine and you're the slot manager, you're either in on it or you're the biggest idiot in the world. I think only Bitcoin is the area in which we could say that either one is completely plausible, because it's attracting a great deal of idiot people who don't understand how the technology really, really works, and people who really, really are that devious. Because if you wanted to suddenly say that, oh, you know how we didn't report that we had this money and now it looks like your people are going to find out about it, we're going to be about to be thrown in jail for having suppressed knowledge of this asset. Yeah, I bet that if we put up a slide deck explaining how complicated electronics wallets are, we could claim that we didn't know that this money was actually here. At least we'll get enough confusion in there to get a plea deal. I don't know that that's the situation, but again, wow, I wish I suddenly realized that I had $100 million just lying around in a wallet that I forgot. I'd be happy to find a free Subway sandwich coupon in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're either incompetent or they are scoundrels. It's also possible that they are incompetent scoundrels. Both could be true. Well, Oscar-winning actor Christian Bale is reportedly in talks to play Steve Jobs for David Fincher's upcoming biopic written by Aaron Sorkin. A Cult of Mac reader even whipped up a Photoshop showing what Bale would look like as Steve Jobs. I don't know. He's an insanely great actor, Andy, but do you think he can pull off playing Steve Jobs?
Definitely. I think the one thing that really disappointed me about Ashton Kutcher's casting, he had the look, certainly. I mean, I think we're all kind of shocked when we first saw that first photo. He really did look like a young Jobs with his hair combed that way. But the thing is, you really need to have presence. You have to have that sort of thing where you walk into a room and all focus is on you, even if you just went there to get a cup of coffee and come back out again. And Ashton Kutcher is the one. I can't think of another actor of his stature where he's just absolutely invisible. He has no presence whatsoever. Also, especially with a script being written by Andrew Sorkin, you're hoping for someone who has real acting chops. And look at The Machinist, and that's the beginning and the ending of the conversation about what this guy can do. And also, he knows how to hold a lens. He knows how to have that sort of quiet danger that says that if I'm being very, very silent right now, that means bad stuff is about to happen. So go to the Batman movies for that. Go to The Prestige for that. I totally see this choice, and it's made me even more interested in how this movie is going to come out.
Totally agree with that. I mean, you know, Ashton Kutcher looked exactly like the young Steve Jobs. I mean, really uncanny. But it's really much more important, the intensity behind it. I mean, Steve Jobs was a very complex character. Both hero and villain to a certain extent, depending on the context. He was, he has this reality distortion field, this magnetic personality. Those are the things that have to be depicted, not the bouncy walk and the other things that Ashton Kutcher did a pretty good job of. And of course, that's why people like Noah Wyle from the Pirates of Silicon Valley, which is a 1999 movie. It was not a very good movie, and the depiction of Bill Gates was not very good. But he was really the star of that movie because he had that intensity. And in fact, that movie starts out. I love the first minute of that movie because he's like looking right into the camera and he's talking about how we're going to make a dent in the universe. And it turns out he's just talking to the guy making the 1984 commercial, who's just more concerned about getting the lights set up. But that's exactly what we would want from a movie like this, is just to depict the ability that Steve Jobs had to change reality, to change your perspective of reality, simply by a combination of will, charisma, and language. He was just he was really, really good with language. He knew how to bludgeon people. He knew how to flatter people. He knew how to butter people up. He knew how to use his celebrity. He knew how to manipulate employees, and all of that was missing from the most recent Steve Jobs movie. And I'd very much love to see this movie have that intensity.
Yeah, I think the performance is, again, going to be in the silences, not in the screaming scenes that are probably going to be in the script somewhere. And I don't think it was so much the reality distortion field, so much as the ability to simply say that I am an engine of forward momentum. I pick a direction, and now this company is going to go there. No matter whether you believe it or not, it's going to happen. Once you jump on board this train, you will feel this same amount of momentum. His ability to energize and direct people is the signature thing about how he ran the company. So, yeah, the moment that Steve Jobs is on that screen in this movie, and you believe that, gee, I don't know if this guy's pursuing the right plan of attack, that's when it fails. I think now that I think of it, I think if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, that's exactly the sort of effect that you want to get in the character Leonardo DiCaprio, where even when you know that this guy is just a huckster and a salesman, and he's ripping people off, and he's convincing other people to rip people off, and also trying to convince other people that totally losing all grip on your morals and your self-control is a positive thing, even though you know this to be a fact. You know that this person believes that what he's doing is right and proper and true, and that somehow you're thinking that, gee, if I were in that room, I would start selling junk investments to retirees too, because man, he does make a convincing argument. That's the sort of scene play that you want to see from the person playing Steve Jobs.
Well, speaking of charismatic and influential industry figures, I want to thank you for coming on Tech News Today and being our guest co-anchor.
Thanks, Mike. It's been fun.
All right. Well, I recommend that everybody follow Andy on Twitter at Ihnatko. That's just like it sounds, IHNATKO. He's got a fantastic Twitter feed. And, of course, you always link to your own work, right? So if they follow your Twitter feed, they can always get linked to the stuff you write.
Yep, we're kind of doing a relaunch of my tech blog on the Sun Times, so hopefully we'll see something very startling and wonderful in the next few weeks. But yeah, that's where you go. Go to suntimes.com.
I'm prepared to be startled. Well, thanks again. Well, there are lots of ways to subscribe to Tech News Today. You can subscribe at twit.tv to either the audio or video version. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/technewstoday. And you can follow us on Twitter, Tech News Today TV. We also encourage you to join our Google Plus community and also circle our page on G Plus by searching for Tech News Today on that site. Well, leave us an email at tnt@twit.tv and tell us what you're thinking and how you like our show, and also what your ideas are for coverage. Leave us voicemail, too, by calling 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific. I really thank you for tuning in. My name is Mike Elgin, and we'll see you Monday.